So today, I will be reviewing every single one of the Vikings draft selections and talking about where they will fit on the Vikings team, how good they are right now, and at the very end, I will give the Vikings a grade of the draft.
12 seconds to go in the game. Niners lead by 4. He'll fire to the right side.
So let's start off. Round 1. Vikings selected cornerback Mike Hughes. Now, I've already done a full-length discussion on Mike Hughes, so if you want to see that video, it'll be linked at the end of this one. But to make it brief, he's a 5'10", 189-pound cornerback out of Central Florida. Mike Hughes has the versatility to play both inside and outside at corner, but being 5'10" and a 40 time of 4.53, you'd like him on more of those slot receivers, so you'd most likely see Mike Hughes play most of his reps in the slot and nickel packages, line up on those underneath corners, and he's very good at playing press man-to-man coverage, which would be perfect for that. He's a willing tackler, but he does need to improve on that, being a slot corner in the NFL level. The biggest attribute that he has that he can contribute to the Vikings right away in the 2018 season is his returner abilities. He's one of the best returners in this draft class and should be the Vikings starting kick returner in 2018, possibly punt returner if the Vikings want to part ways with Marcus Sherrills. So we have a guy right off the bat who can be the returner, but cornerback-wise, he's probably going to be sliding into the number 4 cornerback role, which means you won't see the field a whole lot. This does give the Vikings plenty of depth at the cornerback position, locked in at the first 3. Now Mike Hughes gives us a solid 4 cornerbacks. He could possibly slide into the Vikings number 3 corner if the Vikings very shortly see he's better than Mackenzie Alexander, that's played in the nickel role the previous couple of years. So now, round 2, we got offensive tackle Brian ONeill out of Pittsburgh at 6'6", 298 pounds, an arm length of 34.13 inches. You see prototypical offensive tackle stature right off the bat. 40 time is 4.82, very fast for a tackle, and that is to be expected from a converted tight end. But like a tight end, he doesn't really have the necessary strength. So you see a guy with very good speed for a tackle, but doesn't really have the strength to move defenders. So how good really is he? Well, you like the upside. He's got quickness. He's got the size. You'll imagine he'll put on maybe an extra 10 pounds in training camp in the program. So maybe he could be the starting tackle, but this would mean Mike Remmers would be moved to guard, which a lot of Vikings fans saw in the playoff games was a very poor decision. So this is a very interesting draft pick. I would believe if Mike Remmers would stay at tackle, he'd be the starting tackle in a couple of years. I'm talking about Brian ONeill, but a second round pick for a guy that will play in 3 years is a little bit yikes, unless you're a quarterback. So there we have pick number 2. Now, 4th round, the Vikings select defensive end Jalen Holmes from Ohio State at 6'4", 279 pounds. It's so hard not to make the comparison between him and Danielle Hunter, running a 40 time of 4.82. He is an athletic freak, and just like Danielle, didn't produce a whole lot in the college level. In 2017, he only had 2 sacks and 29 tackles, and the Vikings are of course betting on, just like Danielle, that will change a whole lot in the pro level. Now what we'll see from him right away is not a whole lot. The Vikings have 3 defensive ends that will play the majority of the snaps, being Everson Griffin, Danielle Hunter. Maybe we'll do a little more of an Eagles route and do a little more of a subbing in package, but there's a chance he's only the number 4, number 5 defensive end right off the bat his rookie year. So I would not be surprised at all if we don't see him a whole lot at all, which is a little bit unfortunate for an early 4th round pick. But I do think he'll be, once B-Rob retires, probably be the number 3 corner at that point and have a chance to be the starter down the road. Moving on, maybe a yikes for many Vikings players off the bat. The Vikings get tight end out of Central Michigan, Tyler Conklin, and this was round 5, pick 20. So Vikings fans, some really wanted a receiving tight end. They saw what Kirk Cousins did with 2 very good ones in Washington, and some even wanted a tight end in the first round. The Vikings go in the 5th, getting more of a depth pick. Tyler Conklin, an ex-basketball player, and has decent speed, a 4.840, pretty decent for a tight end. And he was a steady contributor as a receiver the past 2 seasons. He hauled in 35 passes for 504 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now, what's really puzzling for me is his main attribute is going to be a receiving tight end. He's only 6'2". Most receiving tight ends are at least 6'4". But you're looking at 6'6" is usually where you go, especially if you want a number 2 tight end. We want a guy that can catch passes in the red zone. 6'2" is LaQuan Treadwell, and he's had 0 touchdowns. Now, will he be LaQuan? Well, he's a 5th round pick, so maybe. So it's a puzzling pick for a lot of Vikings fans. He had a foot injury, so he hasn't really produced since 2 years ago, where his foot injury really slowed him down, and afterwards he hasn't shown the same athleticism. So of course, if the Vikings drafted him, the medical staff is very certain that he'll come back and have that burst back in him, or at least willing to bet enough for a 5th rounder. But puzzling for a lot of Vikings fans. The comparison a lot of Vikings fans I've seen throwing around is Bucky Hodges, the failed tight end prospect the Vikings drafted last year. Now, I think Bucky is more of just a receiving tight end, where Tyler is a little bit more of a blocker, but honestly, receiving talent less than Bucky. So puzzling for me, and hopefully it works out. But honestly, I'm not sure if he'll make the roster. Might make the practice squad. Now, let's go and let's trade up with our next pick. Also in the 5th round, Vikings pick up kicker ONeill Carlson. Bye Kai Forbath is what this pick says. And this kid is huge for a kicker. 6'4", 218 pounds. And he's got a leg on him. And 23 out of 31 in 2017. 2 misses came in the 40s, 2 were in the 50s. So he's got a very good leg and pretty consistent throughout all the ranges. And one thing the Vikings fans would be really pumped about, he hasn't missed an extra point his entire college career, going from Blair Walsh missing from 3 inches, from Kai Forbath that was awful the first half of the year in PATs, and hopefully we have a kid that can really help out the Vikings, have a consistent kicker. Hopefully he can be what Blair Walsh was supposed to be, and not just a 1-year sensation. That's what we all really want. If you're gonna take a kicker in the draft, he better be good. If not, this is a really bad pick for Spielman. Trading up for a kicker, if he's good, let's love it. Of course, day 1 starter, baby. Now we have to go all the way to the 6th round for the Vikings to finally pick up an interior offensive lineman. The Vikings pick out Coby Sett, and he's a 6'4", 304-pound lineman in the 6th round. Very good value. He was projected to go somewhere between the 4th and the 6th, so we got him on the later end of that, so that sounds pretty good. 40 times 5.2, so average for a guard, and he started 46 games as a senior. He didn't allow a sack and had 3 penalties all year. Over the past 2 seasons, Sett was a power right guard. He needs to develop his handle, speedy interior rushers in the NFL. So a good depth guard. Unfortunately, we don't have one that can start. So we'll have a very similar lineup that we had last year, except no Joe Berger. So unless the Vikings move Mike Remmers into guard, looks like Danny Isidora is going to be the starting right guard. So that's what we have there. Now moving on, staying in the 6th round, the Vikings pick up their 2nd defensive end, Adi Aderna, the 6'5", 260-pound D end, a 4'6", 40. What did he do in college? Nothing. 25 tackles, 3 for a loss, and 3 sacks in 2017. Again, a developmental defensive end that won't do a whole lot next year. Now, it's a 6th rounder, so you don't expect a whole lot. So, will he even make the team? Well, it'll be tough. We have a lot of contributors at the defensive end. A lot of guys that are similar. A lot of solid, yeah, he's a backup type guy. So, will he make the team at all? Well, it'll be tough. I think he'll have a better shot for the practice squad. And maybe down the road, will be a good in-rotation type defensive end. And to end the draft, though, in the 7th round, the Vikings pick out linebacker Devontae Downs. Now, his big story is he suffered a season-ending knee injury against Washington State in October. But before that, he was the heart of the Cal defense, and he's leading the Pac-12 in tackles at the time of the injury. So we have another undersized, slower, 6'3", 245-pound linebacker, good at tackling. Can get off the injury. Reminds me a lot of Michael Mounty. Really good pro player. Had the injury, then didn't do a whole lot afterwards. So the team was banking on a 7th rounder to do good. So I assume a very similar career path of Mike Mounty. Maybe making a few flashes in preseason. That's about it. Maybe we'll make the team as a special teamer. But that's where I see his career going. So let's go overall grades. First off, let's just see who's going to be starting. Mike Hughes, well, probably need a number 4 corner, maybe number 3 if you are the number 3 corner. That's pretty much starting. Brian ONeill, probably not, unless the Vikings really want to move Mike Remmers to guard. Jalen Holmes, no. Tyler Conklin, no. Daniel Carlson, yes. Coby Sett, no. Ade Aruna, no. And Devontae Downs, no. So we are a team in the Super Bowl window with, besides a kicker, no starters. Now Mike Hughes, technically starting, probably being the kick returner, and possibly being the punt returner, and number 4 corner still be in the mix, right? But not a whole lot of starters. It has to do with, yeah, we're the 30th pick. You don't want to reach. But when we're a team that wants to win right now, do we really want to go after the developmental players? Now, they could turn out, they could be a lot better year 1, but this usually doesn't work out a whole lot. So when where are we at right now? We want to win this year, next year, maybe 3 years. That's our best chance. We have this 3-year window, right? And we want to get these players that will take 3 to 5 years to really get the best out of them. That's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of Vikings fans. Sure, these might be good players, good picks, good value. They can develop into very good players, but we don't want to develop players. We want players that are NFL ready, which is hard to get where we are in the draft. We're the 30th overall pick. We couldn't do a whole lot unless we want to trade away a lot of stock. But a lot of developmental picks. Now, they'll be good down the road, so I'm not going to be too harsh. And we hope they will, right? I'm not trying to be a hater, but I'll give the overall grade of this draft class a B-. Just not enough contributors, not even a lot in the rotation. So we'll have to see where they pan out, but right off the bat, B-. Tell me your thoughts on the grading in the comments. I'm excited for Mike Hughes. I think I'll hope ONeill can turn into a good player, but otherwise, let's go. So we'll see you guys in the next Josie Vikings video.